How we doing? Hope we're doing fantastic, because I know I am, and it's good to be back. And perhaps the most exciting thing, other than the fact that the room appears to be on a slant, I assure you I'm not on a cruise ship, however lovely that would be in a Vermont October, but I'm wearing the tie that, defines me as an individual tonight. Not that I'm suggesting that material objects can do that, but if they were able to do that, then, this would be it. So, it's pretty lovely. It looks like it doesn't have a head right now. It does, it does. Oh, yes, fantastic. I don't know if we can see with this, like, really awful webcam, but it sort of has hypnotist eyes, which, you know, stare deep into the flamingo. Yeah, that's how they do it. I guess, today, all day, it seems like every day, the one thing that's on my mind is education policy. And I've decided that education policy is very similar to coffee and sex. Um, because all three of these things are incredibly energizing and thrilling, and you just need to have a cigarette with it, or else it just isn't right. Um, I don't want to dive too deeply into education policy tonight because I've got a friend of mine who agreed to come on and sort of have a conversation with me about that, which will be good. Um, but I read a really interesting article the other day, and thought about how that relates to my teaching experience, and see how that really puts the entire American public school system into perspective, which I think is a really interesting thing. Essentially, to try and summarize the article, and I don't remember what school, and I don't remember where it was. I'm not really big into details. I'm sort of a big picture kind of guy, which is why I'm here. But supposedly a educators want, quote unquote, disadvantaged. The debate as to what disadvantaged or at risk means is, something else for another time. But supposedly it's very important to talk about college as a very realistic opportunity for, disadvantaged, at-risk youth. Um, and the specifics of this debate could go on for a long time. I kind of come down on the fence on the issue. Um, but in this high school, teachers are required at least once a class to say, and this is what you'll do when you go to college. And when you go to college, this is what's going to happen. Sort of trying to instill almost a sense of the inevitable in students, which is an interesting approach. And I don't know if there's any data regarding whether it's effective in um, helping students make it to college. I don't know. I don't know if it's even been around for a long time, but I thought it was really interesting, and I think it speaks more or less to a very disturbing reality with our education system here in the country. Um, Now, of course, going to college is preferable than joining a street gang or selling drugs on the corner, or any number of things. It's preferable too. But I don't for a second buy the fact that it is the golden ticket that um, the sort of that the it's not the golden ticket it's made out to be. Um, I don't buy that college means everything. I don't. Surely it opens up a lot of doors, but we don't know what kind of doors it closes as well. Um, I'm not trying to devalue the college experience. I think that's a very important experience that people should have. And I'm not. I don't regret that I made the decision to go to college. That's one of the best decisions I've made in my life. Um, but by seeing it as the be-all, end-all goal of the education system, I really think that we are robbing ourselves of any type of value that may exist in a student's pre-college career. College is, I don't know if this is the right proverb, but it's like a golden ceiling, and everyone strives for it. And once you hit it, well, what's left? You know, I don't know. And this was an issue that I went through um, in deciding to go to college. Um, and so this is where I can talk a little bit about me. And I'm one of my favorite subjects, so I think that works out for everyone. Um, when I was, I want to say, a junior in high school, I got really interested in the unschooling movement, which was helped along a great deal by the teacher and author Grace Llewellyn, who wrote the Teenage Liberation Handbook. And I remember reading that, and that really changed my perspective on how I felt about a lot of things in life. Among other things, it claimed that you can get all the education that you get in a school, in a library, in a museum, in any other type of learning institution, and that only us as individuals can really take control of our education, and only us as individuals can know what to do to make that education valuable. I think it's an interesting point. I don't know if it could be, well, I do know it could never be implemented on a large scale, unfortunately. But for some students, it would work out for them. And during that time, I very seriously considered dropping out of high school and getting my GED, and not wasting 8 hours a day in a school building, learning about things that I was going to forget 2 weeks later after the test. It seemed like a waste of my time, and to a large degree, it was a waste of my time. And I know that sounds cruel, but it was. It was. How many hours did I suffer through a chemistry class? I don't know. Too many to count. How often have I ever used any of that information in my life to date? Never. Never. I mean, if you're going to be a chemist, okay, fine. I'm not. I'm going to focus on my strengths. I'm not going to, suffer through something just so it can look good on a college application. That's not the way that the education system needs to be running. And it's a tragedy beyond words, although we're putting words to it right now. Basically, after reading this, I wanted to prove to myself and to other people, especially my family, that I could indeed be a successful individual without having a college education. My feeling was, I don't need a college diploma. I don't need a piece of paper that tells me that I am more qualified to do something than someone else. I don't need a piece of paper that essentially tells me I'm smart, that determines my social and economic value for the rest of my entire life. I don't need that. I can be successful without it. And after I graduated from high school, as many of you know, I ran for mayor of the city that I live in, which was a victory in spirit, not a victory in numbers, but a victory in spirit. And after that, I didn't go to college. I started off, I worked as a pharmacy technician, and it was my first job where I needed to wear a suit and tie every day, or a lab coat and tie every day to work. And of course, we know that's the ultimate indicator of success in American society. Wearing a tie to work. Regardless of what you do, if you wear a tie to work, you're going to walk out the door, and your neighbors are going to say, "Wow, look at him! He must be a big deal." Sort of frustrated with that job after a while, I decided to start selling cars for a living. I have never made more money in my life, and I have never been so drastically unhappy. at a workplace in my life. But at the time, I'm thinking, okay, this is real. I can do this. I can be financially successful without a college education. I was. I was very financially successful. And yes, I wore a suit and tie every day to work. But no, I didn't really want to be working 75 hours a week, essentially selling people things they didn't need and in some cases didn't want. There's a more honest way to live a life than the life of a car salesman. Although, if all you want is quick money, and I think that could describe a large segment of the population, go for it. Go for it. A certain amount of romanticism there too. I remember the person who was training me at the car dealership told me that the car salesman was the last American cowboy. He was the last person who really was paid what he was worth. Straight commission supposedly being what one is worth. There's a certain amount of romanticism with that, and yeah, I wore cowboy boots to work. They made a great noise as I walked across the tile floors of the showroom. There's more to life. So, I'm kind of moving on along that track. After a while, I realized, okay, I don't have a college degree, and I am financially successful. But, there was more than that. There was more than that. I wasn't happy with myself. I didn't particularly like what I was doing. After a while, I went back to working retail, which wasn't terribly profitable, but enjoyable. I mean, I still work in retail. I have a good time. But, when you're 20 years old and you want to retire, that's bad. That's bad because, hey, if the economy doesn't get better, I'll be working till I'm 85. I mean, who am I kidding? I'll be dead by then, hopefully. So I decided, okay, I'm going to give in. I'm going to go to college, and hopefully I will be able to be financially successful while working a job I like, not having to work 75 hours a week. And so far, going to college has been one of the best decisions I've made in my life. There really aren't that many of them, so it's pretty easy to pick between them. But it's been an interesting ride. It's been an interesting ride, and even though I count it as a very good decision, I can't stand it when there is so much pressure upon people getting into a good college. And, what a good college is going to depend on every single person you talk to. What makes a college good? That's a question that nobody can answer. That's the question the U.S. News and World Report, every time they come out with, a ranking of, the best colleges, like, okay, what does that mean? What does that mean? How can you assign a number to anything? We can apply the same philosophy to standardized testing, and I think it would fit really, really well. But again, that's another issue for another time.